Hey everybody, so in my house we don't use a regular toothpaste that has fluoride because fluoride is known to be quite a few things, including a carcinogen and a thyroid damaging. So we don't use fluoride, so we try to buy fluoride-free toothpaste, but we also try to avoid SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, as well as glycerin in our toothpaste for a few reasons. Number one is that glycerin can coat the teeth and actually prevent you from strengthening the enamel. So it kind of creates like a film where then you don't absorb the calcium if there's calcium in the toothpaste. So this is talking about cavity prevention, but the other things that are really important for keeping your mouth healthy are, of course, probiotic rich diet and not using things in the mouth that would actually kill the good bacteria, because just like we have a microbiome in our gut, we also have an oral microbiome. So we now understand that probiotics are also really important for the mouth, and we don't want to use anything that would be like an antibacterial in the mouth because it will actually kill the good stuff too. So in addition to calcium in your toothpaste, the other thing you can do to prevent tooth decay is making sure you have enough minerals in your diet. And one way we can also do that is by checking all of your vitamin levels in your blood using a Genova panel. And I just want to point out that magnesium is really important in your everyday regimen. It might be the one supplement that everyone has to take because it is very challenging to get enough magnesium from our diet. And magnesium is actually more important to actually mineralize the teeth and the bones. So more on that later, but right now I'm going to share with you our family recipe for making mineralizing toothpaste. So the first thing you want to do is get your ingredients out. So we use coconut oil as the base because when it gets cool or room temperature, it kind of gets more firm. So it's a good oil to use as the base. It's also good for keeping the microbiome healthy. So coconut oil as the base, and I just have a big container from Costco. So I measured out a 1/4 cup of coconut oil. Then the next ingredient is actually calcium carbonate, food grade calcium carbonate that you can eat. And we're going to use a 1/4 cup of this as well. So if you triple the recipe, it's 3/4 of each, but it's 1-to-1 ratio of coconut oil and food grade calcium carbonate. And then the next thing you need is actually baking soda. And you can skip the baking soda step if you don't love that feeling, but baking soda will help your teeth feel very clean. You can also add xylitol here, but I skip that just because the people in my house are used to things not tasting sweet. Xylitol does have some anti-cavity benefits too, so it's the only sweetener I would recommend adding if you need a sweetener. And then the last thing is that we often add an essential oil. So today I'm actually going to use wintergreen. Okay, so while you're waiting for the coconut oil, what you're gonna do is you're gonna melt the coconut oil. So I just did 30 seconds in the microwave with the coconut oil. And you're gonna mix the dry ingredients together. So the baking soda and the calcium carbonate go in a bowl. And you can use a whisk or you can use a fork, but if you're using a fork, do a really good job of mixing these ingredients because you don't wanna get a big clump of baking soda when you're brushing your teeth. So I'm just making sure it's nice and mixed. And the baking soda usually looks a little bit more finely ground, so you can kind of tell if it's fallen to the bottom. So use a little whisk, or at the end you can also use an immersion blender if you want to. And I'm just making a small amount today to show you. So baking soda and calcium carbonate are mixed. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add them to this container. This is the container I'm using. It's plastic, but you can use a glass jar instead, of course, would be better. And so I'm going to add the coconut oil first, and 30 seconds was enough. It was liquid but not boiling. And now I'm going to add my essential oils. So spearmint, cinnamon, wintergreen, lavender, clove, any of those are great. I'm actually using spearmint today. And for the spearmint, I'm actually going to count out 12 drops. So 12 drops of essential oil. You can change that if you want it to be more minty or less. And I'm just gonna stir that into the coconut oil. And then when I feel like the essential oil is mixed pretty well in the coconut oil, then I'm gonna add the calcium and the baking soda, which is already mixed together. So it's kind of like baking where you add your wet ingredients together and then you add your dry ingredients and then you combine them. Again, I think an immersion blender is great for this, but I don't have one. So I'm just gonna mix the best I can. And you know, keep in mind the people in my family, we haven't had sugar in the house for about 8 years, and we have never really had conventional toothpaste. So the people in my family are used to things not really tasting sweet. It's okay if you have to adjust to that. I think sometimes it takes years to get used to that, but that's okay. Everybody is where they are on their journey. There is no judgment. So I would add xylitol drops to the wet ingredients if you wanted it to taste a little bit sweet. And then I'm gonna show you all what it looks like. If you can see, it's white. It took on a little bit of a purplish color almost from the spearmint. And just make sure it's nice and mixed. You shouldn't see any clumps of baking soda or anything like that. And then you let it cool. And you can leave a tiny little wooden spoon in it, especially if you're using a glass jar. I'm gonna put the cover on and just let this cool so no dust gets in it. And I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so that's it. So coconut oil, baking soda, calcium carbonate are the 3 main ingredients, and then you can add some essential oil. And when it hardens, you can kind of just scoop it out and put it, it's not hard all the way yet, but you can put it right on your toothbrush. Or you can also kind of dip your toothbrush in. And so that's it. You can also get reusable pouches like you would use for baby food, and you can fill one of those instead if you prefer to be able to squeeze your toothpaste. Okay, enjoy.